All right, so welcome everybody. I'm Keith Mathis. If you've not been on a webinar with me, we do these every month. And today we're going to be talking about, the title of this presentation is Navigating the Artificial Intelligence Revolution, Enhancing Project Landscape with AI. And so about a year and a half ago, I was contacted by the university, and they asked me if I would be willing to start learning about artificial intelligence. And so they put us through some fundamental training, and then they wanted us to really examine to see the impact of artificial intelligence really on education, because we're working with grad students and doctoral students. And so at that point, I had heard about it, looked at it a little bit, but not really get into it. And so went through the training, jumped into it, and started researching to see, what does artificial intelligence do? What does it not do? We knew that, there's a lot of fear over this, and so people just kind of went crazy over it. So the last year and a half, that's what I've been researching. And so I'm just about finished with a seminar on this. And so we're going to be hopefully testing it this year. I see Dieter on here. It's Dieter's group I'm wanting to test it with. And so it's 2 days on artificial intelligence, and then 1 day on how do you write and engineer the prompts to get artificial intelligence to help you in project management. And so that's what I'm working on for Dieter's group right now, that we'll be doing hopefully in June. But today what I want to do is kind of hit some highlights with you. I was blessed to be able to speak at Cantera last year about artificial intelligence at one of the PMI chapter conferences that was there. And it has really fascinated me. And it's not perfect, don't mistake what I'm saying, and it's not going to stay the way it is right now because everything's growing like crazy. But I did think that this would be a good topic for us to consider, and I'm sure you're hearing a ton about it right now if you're not already installing it at your organization. So today we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and how it's going to impact project management. So let's lay a little foundation for you. If you're not familiar with this, let's give you a real basic explanation and definition of artificial intelligence. So it's a computer system that functions and makes decisions and acts similar to humans. Now, a lot of people have taken this phrase and they have freaked out and thought, okay, this, the robots are taking over the world and all the software is taking over the world. It's not to that point yet. And obviously there's going to need to be some restrictions on it because it does a lot of stuff that will shock you. But it is a system. It doesn't think. It's programmed, and it doesn't, when it makes decisions, it's making calculated decisions based on the pot of data that it's pulling from. And so I'll show you what I'm talking about here. And so AI uses large amounts of data to make recommendations, solve problems, make predictions to warn people of upcoming concerns. The thing that's so fascinating about this is the better the data that it's pulling from, the better the recommendations. So why are we looking at this for project management? Because project management, if we've got the data, then you've got another resource. It's like an assistant working with you, making recommendations and maybe spotting some things that could be happening with your project ahead of time. That's the whole reason why this is such an exciting thing to look at. Now, intelligence and research has been going on for a long time about artificial intelligence. And this was one of the graphics I thought that was kind of interesting, is that they talked about the potential impact of artificial intelligence by the year 2035. And what they were talking about really was the amount of the economy and the amount of that companies would be growing and stuff like this. And this kind of counteracts the fear that everybody has that I'm no longer going to have a job. AI is going to take everything from me and do my job for me. And so it can do a lot of things, and it can help you in a lot of ways. But most researchers that are out here discover that this is going to be something that's going to augment what we do and make our job a little bit easier and maybe a little bit faster, more so than take our job. Now, I'm sure somebody will lose their job because now it's automated, and right now they're doing it manually. So you know how that is. But the point is that we look at this as a fear piece, and I think we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot to do that without researching it and spending some time looking at this. Now, Thomas Rudders had this on his site, and I thought this was a really great breakdown. He's got artificial intelligence broken down into several different categories here. Now, primarily what we're talking about today is here at the top is going to be what we would call the machine learning, natural language processing, and you know of it as generative AI. And so it's the ability to put a prompt into AI and allow AI to be able to create a document or a structure of a document. Now, if you have been playing with this, like I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir here because many of you are the technology people or the ones who are putting it in at your organization, you know what I'm talking about, that it still has a way to go, but it is evolving in a way that's really, really exciting to be able to look at. Now, AI does a lot of other things too. Many of you maybe have been working with the graphics. The graphic on the front of my slides was generated by AI. It was generated by Image Creator to just to see what it would give me. And so I generated that just for your presentation right here. So it's fascinating what it can do. It's fascinating that it can do all these things. But once again, it's got to have that big pot of data to be able to pull from. And the better that data is, the better the decisions. And some of the decisions will be wrong and not work just exactly the way we want them to. Now, there's some strategies for getting the most out of ChatGPT, which you're hearing the most about. And ChatGPT seems to be the one that it is that seems to be the one that is most popular right now because of the version 4 that came out, ChatGPT 4 that came out and allowed people to be able to see this. So begin creating prompts and experimenting with their effects, pointing out a persona such as a Harvard professor or an experienced project manager. And so that might not mean a lot to you, but what you're doing is telling ChatGPT how you want them to act or how you want them to function is really what you're trying desperately to do. Is you're trying to get them to be able to function a certain way. For an example, typing in, I want you to write this report as if you were a Harvard professor. That's the point that we're getting at. Or I want you to examine this data as if you were a project manager. So you provide an example for them, and then you write a little paragraph of what you're wanting them to do, how you're wanting them to look at this. And so then ChatGPT is taking that and then giving you feedback on it. And it's not going to be perfect, but you're going to write another one and then another one after that. You also have been exposed to what we would call chatbots. Chatbots are programs that respond and engage with humans through conversation. Many of you have already done this through customer service, and some of them work better than others as you do this. But you're looking at customer service and talking to customer service, and they're trying to find the information. Now, obviously, the chatbots have a way to go because you get kind of frustrated with them, and I do too. But the point is that it allows them not to have someone on the phone talking to you and allows you to be able to get the information you need in a relatively short time. So we've had exposure to chatbots for a long period of time. Now, there's different types of chatbots. There's rule-based chatbots that function by using keywords and predefined questions. That's the most common that most of us have seen. You have voice-based chatbots that allows users to speak to them and give direction. And then you have generative AI, which is what we're talking about mostly today, which is the most functionality by using questions and text. And so by writing a text or writing a question, you're being able to generate back the exact type of information that you're looking for or that you're wanting to have. All right, so one of the big fears that we have right now is we have a fear of what ifs is really what it comes down to. And so we're scared of what's going to happen if the technology is uncontrolled or if people are not guiding it in some way. And I don't disagree with that. The technology does need to be have some kind of perimeters around it. We do have to have some kind of barriers around it and stipulations. And so there'll need to be laws and regulations. We don't want anybody stealing our image and our voice and using it, especially to trick people into doing something or stealing from people or anything like that. So we don't want any of those kind of things to happen. But some of the fears I think are not that founded. And the reason is because it's out of ignorance. We don't know anything about it. We don't have a knowledge base of it. We have not seen it work. And so because of it, we have a tendency to be fearful of it. Many of you don't know this, but when the internet came into play in 99 and 2000, people had these same kind of fears. And of course, today we do so many things with internet that's so powerful, and we don't even think about it. We're on it every day, and it would really hurt us to not have internet today. I think you're going to see some of this with AI as well. So let's take a look here at a couple of real life applications if you've not been looking at this. So when we're looking at AI in real life applications, the first is in marketing. Many of you maybe have already seen AI. Many people have already started using AI to write blogs, to be able to update their social media and to be able to stay in the know with social media with less manpower. That's a pretty common thing. And of course, they're using generative AI, just like what we're talking about, and they're using that to be able to write some of the blogs. It's very short, to the point. It can be edited very quickly, so you can see people doing this. The cool thing I think that I'm hearing about is pharmaceuticals. AI is being used in pharmaceuticals to be able to for problem solving and to be able to increase the speed of being able to test certain type of chemicals out and see what the ripple effect is, because it can diagnose and go through so much information so fast and give you basically results. Whether you know it or not, this Sunday on NFL, you're going to be seeing AI is going to be doing and generating all kinds of stats on the entire football game. And so this is, I guess it's supposed to be the first time they've done it on Super Bowl. They've already used it on some of the playoff games. And so they've got AI that's going to be crunching all the numbers, and they can do it in just a second. And so we'll see what they come back with, if it's any different than what we would normally have. Business is starting to use it not only for the marketing piece, but also in looking at competitors and looking at how can they reposition themselves, how can they solve and resolve problems, can they know about potential problems ahead of time and kind of get a forewarning. And that's the piece that we're tapping into with project management. Can I have something that's going to help me kind of forewarn, to double check something that hasn't happened yet, but could potentially happen, that AI has picked up on, that maybe I haven't or my team hasn't. And then of course, healthcare. If you've been reading about this is fascinating, that healthcare, they've been using AI to double check x-rays of people with cancer. And breast cancer alone, they're finding out that the person looking at the x-ray for breast cancer, and specifically, their ratio of catching the cancer compared to AI is just significantly different. It's like 85% of AI is catching the cancer, whereas far lower than that when you're talking about the human person. Now, none of this is perfect, you know what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is there's some exciting things to look at where technology is going to evolve. And of course, that's with GPT-4 that we have right now. And this year, towards the end, sometime in this year, the anticipation is that GPT-5 will be rolling out, and it's going to even have more of these characteristics to be able to make decisions. So when we look at it very quickly from a marketing application, you're looking at, okay, what customers to go from. So you could see how a small business or a business would want this to anticipate, is there a customer mix out here that I'm not looking at that would be good for us to consider? And so they can use all the data and all the research to decide, this is a customer group that I need to go after. And so that kind of application is pretty clear. And so they could predict cross-selling behaviors from a sales standpoint, new products, efficiency, adjusting marketing or sales strategies. Now, whether you know it or not, many of us don't talk about it, but marketing is one of the biggest type of project management components that you could possibly have. It is a monster-sized project because you're running a project to get customers and bring them in to buy your product or service. And so it is very much project management. And then pharmaceuticals, the way they're applying it, not only in researching their data, but they're also being able to look and crunch the numbers on once again, some of the tests and testing groups that they're doing, and be able to see the information. Once again, not perfect, but it is another resource to be able to help us understand what's going on in the pharmaceuticals. So they can look at toxicity predictions, drug repurposing, candidate screening, a lot of different things. Now, once again, none of it's perfect in trying to screen a certain person, because they're trying to use that in HR as well. And it's not perfect, we've already seen, but it is something to allow you to have another resource to be able to help you. And then in businesses and business operations, Harvard Business Review uses AI in 3 ways: automating business processes, gaining insights through business analysis, and engaging customers and employees. So as you look, and many of you will be the ones on the projects that are actually installing this and making it work within your organization or within your department. So it's an exciting time as you look at some of these to once again know something about it, and they know that it's evolving, it's changing, of course, but to be able to have some kind of insight into that, whether you're installing it in the business setting or in a marketing setting or in a pharmaceutical setting, it doesn't matter. This technology will hopefully make a huge difference in being able to give feedback and information to that customer that you're doing this for. And then the last, in healthcare, think about it, man. If just a handful of people can get cancer diagnosis early to where it saves their life, compared to months, weeks or months later to where they lose their life, I mean, just that alone would be enormous. One projection about it from the aspect of AI with project management is that could this make a 25% difference in the success of projects? And that's what many people are functioning off of. It could AI, the use of AI in project management, increase the success rate by 25%. And I don't think anybody can prove that yet, but I think that's a great idea to make our projects that much better. So let's talk about a couple of other pieces that are challenged with sometimes, okay? One of those is prejudice and bias. And this happens to actually be connecting to HR. Many people are using AI in HR right now for hiring people or screening people is really where they're using it most of the time, if you really read the article. And so what happens is that you're filling out an application, you're turning it in, and AI is screening you for a certain set of characteristics and for a certain thing. Now, the problem with AI is it's not a person. And so that it could be prejudice and bias. It depends on what kind of information or data database that it's pulling from to be able to look at people. So there's going to be exceptions for this. And that's the negative thing, is that it could be prejudice and could be bias, and it could give you the wrong answer, and does all the time. In the last year and a half, I will see something and I'll start laughing because the answer is absolutely wrong. And so I'll go back and look, and somehow that phrase that I have used has caused it to think something different than what I wanted. So that everything hinges on how good our prompt is and what AI is taking from that prompt. And so that's the reason why you'll write a prompt and change one word or two words, and your prompt and your output will be something totally different. So the prejudice and bias has to be looked at. And so that's why I said it's not perfect, because once again, it's not thinking, it's just looking at what most people do or what most people look at. And so if the data has bias and prejudice in it, then AI is going to have bias and prejudice in its output. And so that's one of the reasons why you look at it. So it reads the data as truth. It uses the inputs to make decisions. And so once again, how good is our data? And if you look at many of us, our data has really struggled. We haven't done a very good job at least in the area of project management of warehousing our data for very well. And many times we haven't categorized it. We haven't done anything to be able to make that data real useful. And now we're at a point to where we're going to need that data to be able to make better decisions for the organization in the future. So you've got AI tools that you could use, such as the assistant, chatbots, project intelligence, machine learning, and it goes on and on. This is just scraping the surface here. But the point I'm getting at is that you're looking to see, what do I need that's going to connect? One of the things I'm going to be doing here in another month, I'm going to actually be presenting AI and how AI and its influence on church. Can you use it in a church setting? And so my pastor has asked me if I would speak on this, and so I'm going to. And so look at it from that aspect, because AI theoretically could influence every area of our life to give us information if we use it correctly, and don't assume that this is the best decision every time. It's not going to be. So when we look at the assistant and the chatbot tool, a chatbot's a software application used to conduct an online chat conversation via text or text to speech. It can automate conversation, interact with people. Almost all of us have done this, and many will know of AI because you have Siri and Alexis and some of these. That's going to be a low side of the AI right now that people are using, and we feel very comfortable with those. But once again, it's not making decisions on our life. It's just changing what song we're listening to or telling us what the weather is. But the point I'm getting at is that we already are interacting with many of these. Or if you're doing Siri on your phone, you're already interacting with some level of AI right there. Now, when they talk about a project intelligence tool, it's an organizational or PMO metric for monitoring the overall working of the organizational projects. So here's where most researchers are looking for help and hoping that AI is going to be one of those solutions, and it looks very promising. And that is the ability to be able to look at our project and to be able to make some recommendations because it sees some things coming down the pipeline that might cause us problems in the future, or looking at project management as a whole for the organization, almost through a program mindset, and make recommendations on different projects for resourcing, and also for those projects that could be struggling, that maybe they're still hitting all their numbers, but they're struggling in other areas. So it allows an opportunity for it to look at a lot of information fast and make some recommendations. Once again, we would take that recommendation and do something with it, but it would allow us to do this. From the machine learning tool, that enables predictive analysis. And this is one of the most exciting things. It looks at what's happening now and makes predictions. Now, it's not a human, but it is making predictions. And the predictive analysis is one of the things that is the most hopeful for project managers, is being able to look forward. Which project should go first? What's the impact of this project if we bring these other two projects on? It makes predictions on the resources. But it's not just blind predictions, it's predictions based on past data and past environmental factors that we have actually had and used with that project or with project management before. So here's how AI actually works, just to make sure you get this. And so I'm sure I'm speaking to people who maybe know nothing about AI, to people who are already using it and installing it. So it has to have data. And so that's the biggest thing that you see right now. Anything that you try out right now online, whether you're using ChatGPT or you're using Poe or Claude, or you're using Copilot, any of those that you're using and playing with, it's pulling data from someplace. Some of it will pull it from the internet. Some of those don't pull it from the internet at all. They pull it from past information. So data is the key to this whole thing. And this is where it's going to fall. Bad data, guess what? Bad decisions. So we've got to be able to anticipate this. Then what it's going to do is analyze whatever issue you have typed into it as a prompt. And so whatever you're asking it, it's going to be then coming out. And then it's going to give you some solutions and suggestions. And some of those solutions and suggestions are absolutely crazy, and some will absolutely be spot on. And you think, I've never thought about that. And then it's going to forecast some predictions based on the data, how good that data is. So like for an example, with looking at this with doctoral students and grad students, to sit down and type in a prompt asking for an outline for something, the outline might be spot on. And of course, you're deciding about that outline. So using it as a research tool can be a great help to give you an outline, about a particular topic, that things you haven't thought about or things you've left out. And so from a writer's standpoint, that's great. But to think that it's going to write a dissertation, it's not there yet. It's going to be a very high summary. It's going to summarize the stuff more than anything else. You're not going to see a lot of depth to it. And so we've seen this with some of the students that have tried to turn it in, and just in playing with it for the last year and a half, I've had it write different things, and you will see it. And we've actually taken it into training, and you almost can spot it. It's more of a summary, and you can just tell that it just didn't have that meaty stuff that you want when you're writing an article or something. But all of that's going to continue to evolve. I mean, we're on GPT-4 right now. GPT-5, if it comes out this year like expected, then you're going to see it at another level. And that's going to be the exciting piece to this. And all of this is going to make a huge difference as it feeds back into the data, the knowledge base that we have. And so I can see, I'm not making a projection, but I could see organizations that have a lot of project management knowledge base, like a project management institute, becoming the knowledge base for companies, to where they sell a subscription and you're tapped in, your AI is tapped into theirs, and they make recommendations to you on agile and predictive project management based off of their knowledge base, because they've got the deep knowledge base. Maybe your organization has it too, then that's fine. But many people don't have that. And that's where a lot of this will have a tendency to fall apart from us. Now, the different types of data that it uses, AI requires a great deal of data, and of course, processing power. And of course, we've got fast computers now. So everything is just spot on for us to have an exciting time to be able to look at artificial intelligence and what it can do. So in a project, it needs past project documentation, project plans, issues, problems, solutions, and it needs all of that so that it can look at this and make a comparison as to what you're doing right now and what's happening in your project right now. As that comparison is made, that's where it comes back with some suggestions. Now, all of those suggestions you're not going to use, but some of those suggestions might be something to trigger a new new direction for you to go in that project or to double check something you were not anticipating. Each type of data teaches AI something different. So once again, AI is always coming off of data, good data, bad data. It's always coming off and making those decisions. So let me give you 8 types of data real quick that AI has a tendency to look at. And of course, it's looking at it in a split second. So it's looking at numerical, categorical, image, text, time, audio, sensory, and structured. So it's looking at all those types and it's coming up with an idea. So depending on what data we have it connected to is going to make a difference of that. And of course, if we're missing parts of this data, that might make a difference on the decision it comes up to as well, because we're limiting the amount of information that it has to consider and to look at. I haven't messed a lot with the image piece. I've done it just enough just to see what it did. I've spent most of my time in generative AI, looking at it through the education standpoint and just looking at it, trying to see how do we write prompts and to write a seminar on how to do this. But there's tons of different types of AI that you're going to see start coming out. Now, as we talk about numerical data, what are we talking about for AI? So is any numerical data is going to be any data that gives real numbers and helps AI system classify or predict the future outcomes of the project. It can include surveys, experiments, and other sources. And so once again, how much of that do you have in your normal database of your company is going to make a difference on how much this is going to influence it. For an example, percentages. Anytime, like for an example, I typed into ChatGPT and asked it about percentages for certain things. And it gave me percentages. The only problem is that the percentages were not documented. It just made them up. And that's the downside, is that you've got to check it out. If it'll quote, somebody will quote Dr. Blackburn, and you get to looking and you go back and check it and start Googling Dr. Blackburn in this particular article, and there's no such thing. So GPT can lie to you because it fills in the holes, it fills in the blanks, okay? And so it will give you a reference. It can give you those. Now, not everything will be wrong. Not everything will be a lie. A lot of the articles it talks about or quotes might be absolutely spot on, but don't assume that quote or that percentage or that statistic, like I did, was a real statistic. It might not be. So you always have to verify those types of things. That's the downside of it right now, is that it can be wrong and is wrong an awful lot. Categorical data is any data used to observe an observation of groups. How to build teams, how to be able to motivate teams. We do a lot of different categories to be able to get certain types of performance or output. And so that type of information can be there. Labels, names, classes, anything to assist with classification and clustering of data, that's going to feed some of this. The downside, though, is guess what? This could also be very biased and prejudiced. Why? Because we've clustered everybody. For an example, we have certain thoughts. Everybody, all older people are like this. All younger people are like this. And we know that's not true. But the point is, we will categorize people in certain pockets for commonality. And so we get into those. We also look at AI and the use of image data. And this is getting pretty excited for people, because you'll see people create all kinds of cool graphics from an image creator for AI. And so this data is any data used for pixel values representing an image. And so you'll see many people who are just needing graphics for different things using that. And so we have to be careful with that as well. For an example, is it taking it from someplace else? Is it taking part of it from someplace else? Same thing with the narrative. Is it taking that narrative from someplace else? And so examples would include object boxes, facial recognition, image segmentation data. And so you're going to see the image, you're going to see the facial recognition and stuff continue to explode, and more so than ever before. I was kind of surprised. Wanda and I did a cruise over the holidays, and coming back into the country, you normally go through customs. Well, when we got ready to go through customs, there was nobody there. I went through a facial recognition that still don't know how they got my face, but they had facial recognition on me because, to my knowledge, nobody took my picture when I got on the boat, okay, and took a picture and said I was clear to come on through. Nobody talked to me, and I guess if it didn't go right, then they would take me off into another room. But facial recognition brought us into the country with nobody there. And so all these pieces of my face popped up and said I was clear to go in. So my point in saying that is that technology is evolving for every piece of this, and it's going to be something that I think you're going to be influenced with if you're not already. So let's go a little further. Now, the one that many of you are using is this text data. Now, the text data that we're getting into with AI is that it's trying to take care of some of the jobs that we don't want anyway. For an example, documenting what people do and say in a group, in the team meetings. Many of you are already using this, but you're using some type of light AI tool to be able to document what people have said in your team meetings and give you a transcript of that meeting. And many people are using these right now in their organizations, especially in a Zoom meeting, to be able to do this. And so this examples would include speech transcripts, emails, articles. People are using all of these things to be able to just speed up their own productivity with all that they're trying to do. And so any of this text data is something that can be very, very beneficial for folks. Time data is collected over a period of time, usually in a chronological order as it goes through. It's commonly used in machine learning projects as it provides a temporal context for the data. Examples would include sequence of values over time, applications in forecasting, anomaly detection. Time series could be used to predict stock market prices. And some of your stock market people are actually playing with AI to see if their AI's predictions are better than theirs. And so that's what they're looking at. So all of that going together just really kind of pulls it together where you think, oh my gosh, this is really some pretty interesting stuff. All right, so then some folks are using it for audio data. Is it possible to be able for it to listen and hear? Well, we know it's doing it from a text standpoint. Dragon Speaks has been around for a long time as a piece of software that you could dictate anything and it would write for you. But now this is hearing the room. This is hearing the meeting, and it's picking up different people in the meeting and segmenting them in the transcript. And it's not perfect by any means, and it will have to evolve. But it is being able to do an awful lot of that. Examples would include music, spoken words, recordings to create data sets for machine learning. This might include data language processes, sound clarification, just on and on and on. It's a kind of an exciting thing here that you're looking at. And then sensor data focuses on data from motion sensors, temperature sensors, and other physical sensors. So is it possible that AI would be able to track these sensors and be able to warn us earlier than what we would be able to do this manually or with the software that we're doing right now? So I don't know. These are all some of the areas that people are looking at. So the capabilities, people are talking about smartphones being able to save your life because it picks up I'm having a heart attack, or it picks up that my blood sugars jumped up real high. And so people are starting to tap into those little pieces. And of course, something's going to have to run that, and they assume AI is going to be that connector. AI in the use of structured data, it focuses on stored data in tables, includes data organized into format. Now, if you're practicing and playing around with ChatGPT, one of the things that you probably have noticed is that it will actually format your data into certain things. I was playing with it doing a risk analysis, and one of the things I did is I told it to format the risk and the probability and impact scores into a table. And so sure enough, it popped up in a table all ready to go. I asked it to give me an outline for a charter and on this particular project, and to give me some notes on that charter. So it gave me a draft. None of those would be ready to go. You understand what I'm saying? But it gave me a draft of each of those. And so every component of a project, I could actually ask it to give me a draft, and it would give me a workable draft that I could then have something to start with and then move forward. So that allows you to jumpstart a little bit. Now, ethics and artificial intelligence. This goes back to what we were saying before. Somebody stealing our looks, stealing our voice, and being deceptive with it, or making money with it, or whatever. And that's going to be something that's where the law absolutely has to be there. And the first is privacy violations. Many of you already heard that Taylor Swift, somebody did a spoof and did it with AI that it made it look like Taylor Swift, and it went and it wasn't her. And so that's the fear that we have with AI. And so some people don't want any part of AI strictly because of this right here, because of privacy violations. And we have to understand privacy violations could happen for anything, not just here. If you have people steal your credit card or steal your credit card number, and you don't get rid of your credit cards, you just make sure you get a new credit card and you watch it a little bit closer. Bias, prejudice, hiring people through using AI to slim down the listing. Of course, it can be bias and prejudice. So we'd have to really watch that to make sure that it's not doing that. Unauthorized use. So in other words, is it possible that people could use AI in a way that we don't want them to use it, and they work for our company and they have access to it, but they're using it in an unauthorized way? And then privacy violations, I actually put that in twice, I guess. I didn't even catch that until just now. And so privacy violations, and then manipulation of behavior. Is it possible that we can manipulate someone's behavior with this? Now, the fear of that we have, and from an education standpoint, is education goes by the wayside and everybody allows AI to write everything for them, dissertations, master's thesis, whatever it is. And of course, you're looking to see, can we pick up on that? And the answer right now is that there's a lot of companies who's trying to discover text that is being written, but they're a long way from doing it yet. The biggest company that's working on it right now is called Turnitin. Many of you have heard of them. They are a big plagiarism software and company. And of course, they're tapped in with a lot of universities trying to see, can they build an algorithm to be able to detect AI compared to somebody writing their paper for real. And as you know, it checks on the databases to see, has anybody else turned in a paper like this, and what is the percentage of matching? And AI is still all over the place. I mean, some papers that were actually written by a person in a classroom received 100% AI rating, saying it was written by AI. And then the paper that was written by AI had little or no connection on the Turnitin score. So we're still a little ways from that to be able to catch those cues of what it is that's going to trigger the plagiarism software to catch it. All right, so let's go a little further into human ability with AI, augmenting it. This is absolutely where it's going to shine, I think. And you and I are going to be very blessed with this, because augmenting human ability with AI is defining as using technology to make life easier, remove repetitive actions, expand engagement with technology, increase results and efficiency. And this is where I think it connects with the project manager, because it's a tool that you're going to be able to look at, and it's going to flag early warning signs of things to look at, or a warning that something's happening. And even if you don't choose or don't agree with the warning, you're making that choice. The point is that warning and hearing it is still better than not seeing it in the first place. And so you have that. Now, the concerns with augmenting AI is that people will get lazy with it. And so AI could have a negative influence, not because of the technology, but how people use it. And we see that with different things as well. For an example, we know that the driverless car, the ability to punch a button and for your car to drive itself, what a great thing when you're tired, but you're supposed to be an engaged driver. You're not supposed to be in the stinking back seat. I mean, what part of silly is that? And so haven't we seen crazy people doing stuff? And that's technology. They blame the technology. No, what part is that the person driving it getting in the back seat? The technology was not what caused that. But you see people who are misusing technology, okay? So some people could reduce the perceived desire for self-learning, development, abandon self-exploration, abandon research. And that's the fear. Is this going to take our creativity away? And rightly so, it could, because we get lazy and let AI dictate a lot of these. Now, let's go back to the position of the project manager. So how can it help? The AI intelligence can help give project managers real-time data. And this is what we need the most. Not that we don't get data, not that we don't get triggers, not that we don't get warnings, but the challenge that we get into is sometimes it's later than what we need. We want it in real time. What's happening at this moment? So current data with predictions allows continuous project monitoring from moment to moment, and superiors can help, can know that the project status at any time. I'm talking about specific status right then. Now, maybe your projects already do this, and maybe you're really good at being able to do this, but most of us, we find ourselves, there's a little bit of lag time between where it is currently and the time we can figure out and be able to report all the calculations and all the data to give an update. We give an update of the newest information we know, but it's still not that moment. It's off a little bit. Also, AI helps the project manager in other areas, such as looking at the strategic levels. Many of you, in reading the new PMBOK and also reading PMI's material, you'll notice that there's a connection between where the project is and alignment. That has become a big buzzword in project management. We're trying to align it with the goals and objectives of the organization, which is the strategic plan. And so they're talking more about alignment. And did the project bring the level of value that the strategic plan thought it would when they decided to do the project? And so we're going to see this evolve even more and more. It's already evolving in the PMP exam. And so you're going to see this come out more and more. But how do we measure it? And how do we have that real data? Well, AI is going to possibly be one of those resources. So increasing the value, freeing up time normally used when monitoring the project and calculating data, it's just going to be popping up on the screen for us to read and get an idea of what's happening. It's going to help us decrease time, prioritize the most important things, and help virtual stakeholders gain the information they desire, because we can know what's going on at any time in just a split second. AI and the predictive analysis is an interesting piece. If you've not read anything on predictive analysis, it's forecasting is really what it's kind of doing. It's forecasting what is going to happen based on what's happening now. And we do this in a lot of ways. Anytime we did the EAC and ETC calculations, we're forecasting what will my final project cost if work and costs stay the same. How much more money do I need if work and costs stay the same? So we've used those our whole project management lifetime, okay? But the point is that this is going to be more predictive of how are we going to be behind? Are we going to be out of scope here because these steps are happening? And it's just that little trigger of forewarning to allow you to check it and just double check to make sure. Supporters of AI question if adding AI and using predictive analysis would increase failing projects from 65%, which seems to be the international rate right now, that most writers say that projects fail at about 65% rate, to where you have a success rate next of 80% or higher. And so that means, I'm sorry, I think I said that wrong. 65% success rate right now to an 80% success rate. So most writers say that 65% success rate, that means that some 35% of the projects are failing. And so that you're looking at it, so is it going to be higher over time? Predictive analysis would help people use what-if questions that predict the outcomes or suggestions to support the project. And then data-driven decisions are the foundation for solid decision-making. We want to make decisions on data, not on a whim, not just as a knee-jerk reaction. And we've all been in those situations before, but we want to be able to make good decisions. And that's what this is hopefully going to do, is give you additional information to make those decisions. All right, so building an enterprise AI strategy. This is where a lot of organizations will take this, and many of you will work on the project to put it into the enterprise, because they're going to be running all projects with some of this. So you're going to create guideline, policy, and procedures for AI. And this is no small task. Teaching for Liberty University, they're very cautious about AI. They're watching it. And then the policies are actually evolving even as we speak. And then I'm teaching for Walden University with doctoral students, and they're very proactive on AI. And so their policy has already evolved of how people can use it in the classroom, how people can use it for research. And so theirs is very proactive. And so two universities who care a lot about education, but they're looking at AI a little bit different. One's a little more cautious and a little slower on coming up with the policies until they know a little more. Walden has been very proactive on coming up with policies that will probably evolve over time. But the point is, they went ahead and got that. So you're seeing people in the workplace are going to do this. You're going to have some people in management. They want AI instantly because they think it's going to save money. And so they're going to want those projects coming into play. And then you're going to find people who they're the doomsday prophet. AI is going to be the death of us all. It's going to be the end of the world. And the truth is, there's going to be some hiccups, of course, but there's going to be some positive stuff. So determine what type of training the employees need to implement and use AI. Create a team in charge of data compliance, because the compliance and standards of data is probably getting ready to make a shift in the next 24 months. Because if we're going to use AI, then your data has to have certain type of characteristics about it. And that's one of the things every company will have to be looking at. What type of problems will AI resolve? Customer service, we talked about. Fraud is considered to be one of the things they think it will be, that AI will actually be able to pick up on potential fraud or upcoming fraud, where fraud could be, faster than what a human could. Forecasting demands, predicting customer behavior. I was reading where Amazon is actually using I don't know if it's AI, but they're using software to predict what you and I are going to buy next. Not what we've bought, but what we'll buy next. And so I thought, what an interesting little twist. And so I'm wondering if AI is involved in that at all. Image and video recognition, which we've talked about, data analysis, anything that is going to take large amounts of data and be able to package it and be able to analyze it in split seconds. And if everything stays the way that we think it's going to be for the Super Bowl, let's look and see what other types of data and statistics they're giving us that, as they use AI for the Super Bowl this year. And let's see what they give us over on Sunday. Next, establishing a training program to expose the organization and employees to the foundations of AI. AI doesn't need to be feared from us, but it does need restrictions. Some cautions, hands down. And if you're installing it and you're the one that's going to be putting it into software packages and building it in, looking to make sure that the security is spot on, is going to be super important. So don't mistake what I'm saying. It's not a flippant thing. It's going to be very important, but it's going to be something I think that's going to launch us into a totally different direction to make us much more data driven than maybe we are right now as we look at some things. Research the knowledge, the capability gaps. Knowledge gaps might include both the internal data that the organization needs to make AI function. Capability gaps could show what type of employees are needed. So like, for an example, do we even have the employees who are capable of being able to get this type of project into our organization? You're going to be looking at a lot of computer scientists that are going to need to be there to work and run this. Maybe this is not a real strong area at your current organization. So it might make a difference on who we're hiring to be able to oversee the components of this. You'll probably have an AI team, executive team, who needs to be exposed to a lot more training on AI, the good of AI, but also the bad of AI. And so to be able to balance it for the organization. And so they have to have enough power and authority to be able to remove some of the barriers, because some of the barriers we have in the organization right now have been there for security purposes, but AI you're going to have to work it with AI in order to be able to use it for everything we're trying to use it for. But many companies are jumping on board. Just in the last 6 months, you're constantly hearing of more and more companies that are starting to implement components of AI. Even a small project to begin implementing AI might be a benefit to you, just to be able to start getting like a pilot project to get your hands around it to see what this is doing. Could it change how we plan? Could it change how we organize? The answer is yes. Many people are trying to use it even in operations. Can they use it on maintenance of the machinery itself to have a better maintenance program for their machinery and anticipate breaks, shutdowns in the future before they happen? You also consider if the organization has enough information to support AI and projects long term, because once again, it goes back to the data. So if we've not been warehousing our data, or our data has not had any kind of standard to it, then this might be a weak area for us. And so if there's not enough data, some organizations will seek out a vendor to lease it from. That's where I can see organizations like associations for project management being able to lease some of that material down the road. Now, they're not talking about that right now, but you'll see a lot of data leasing companies in the next 24 months that will start leasing out some types of data for everyone. Now, that kind of brings me to the end of this. And so let me just tell you that I've got a 2-day Unleashing the Power of AI and Project Management that we will have later this year. You'll hear about it, and we'll be doing a public seminar on it later this year. And then day 3, there's a third day, is nothing except writing prompts and engineering prompts to get out of AI what you want. So 2 days will be about AI, unleashing the power of AI with project management. And then day 3 will actually be writing the prompts of how to get your projects to function right with that. And so it'll actually utilize several teams. This is the way I've got it set up, and several teams. And you'll be actually getting on several different sites for AI. Claude will be one of those. Poe, ChatGPT, BART will be one of those. And so it'll allow Copilot to allow you an opportunity to see these different groups. And of course, all of these you're going to be able to sign in for free. If you're not doing it, go ahead and check them out. You can sign up for an account for free free and be able to go ahead and start experimenting with some of those. Well, we're coming down to the end of our time. I want to tell you about the 2-day Unleashing the Power that we'll have. And so we don't have a date for that yet because we're going to be marketing it. So it'll be several months down the road here. And then for those of you who are looking at the PMP seminars and the mastermind groups, I have 2 more mastermind groups that are free for people that you think need some help and coaching and getting their application fixed up and what the PMP is. And so I've got one in May and I've got one in September for the mastermind groups. And then we still have 5 more PMP exam preps. We do one every month. We just finished one up yesterday. And so we do one every month if you've got people that you're wanting to put in for the PMP. So I'm going to open this up for questions, and we've got just a little bit of time. I know I've given you a lot of information. You might be pro or con on the AI thing. I know, just work with me on this because I think it's exciting, okay? I'm not an expert in every area, but I'm willing to answer some questions here. So let me open this up. And so let me see, I got some chat people here. So let's see what's going on with chat. I see Bart, a question mark. So I've seen the movie, and so Dieter, so several of you have responded. So questions, if you want to put it in chat, go ahead, and I'll do my best to answer it. Or if you want to ask, I'll do my best to answer it. So what? All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoy playing with this. Go ahead and sign up on ChatGPT for a free account and start playing with it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Bart, you can sign up for a free account with Bart as well. And then if you you can go to Bing and go to the chat and be able to sign up for a free account on some of these, and that will give you something to kind of experiment with and see it. Play with it a little bit before you rule it out. And there's got to be some regulations to it for sure, but it'll be fun. You'll be surprised what it will produce for you. All right. Well, listening, folks, thank you so much. Good talking to you. Good seeing everybody. God bless you guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being on here as we talk about AI. Okay. Have a great day. Bye now.